Welcome, collectors. Welcome. Today we have episode 116, very special episode, Top 10 Wedding Planning Mistakes. 'Tis the season. So, I see so many nuptials in my side business that it just makes me crazy when I see things that could have been avoided that were obvious mistakes. And it's gotten me so started that I've even gone so much as to write a whole course about this because it's making me crazy. I can't stand good people with honest earned money really just either paying too much, stressing too much, worrying about things that either they don't have to or that they are kind of forced into or made to believe or that you see on TV or whatever. So we're going to talk about some of those things today. And honestly, in no apparent order, I just kind of made a list of 10, and I would say that some are more obviously prioritized than others, but that's a personal thing. So every couple's different, and some things are going to mean more or less to you. But just kind of jumping right in, starting too late is the big obvious one to me. If you are deliberately doing a quick wedding, that's fine. It's your choice, it's your plan, it's what you want to do. But in your standard typical wedding, most people leave at least a year out. I would leave at least 18 months out the way things are lately. Post crazy time and post vid, everything's been a little nutty and it's just taking longer to get stuff. People aren't as quick to move as they were. People aren't as enthused as they were about their jobs and getting materials. And as sad as that seems, it's just reality. So the more time, the better. No one's ever said, oh, gee, I wish I didn't have any more time. That's just not something that's going to come out of people's mouths. So really, having that start too late is a problem. Take your time and have the event that you want, because there's just everything can be controlled with time. And you get better venue choices, you get better date choices, you get better time slots, you get, perhaps the photographer you wanted or the baker that you wanted, or tailoring situations with clothing, or that the deal that came up on Amazon for perhaps any kind of takeaway that you're using, or maybe something you need for the the venue, or for people, or for your bridal party, or whatever. There's always something that time is going to help you, and if you have more of it, you could take more time looking through it. Now, with that said, don't let analysis paralysis kick in, where you do absolutely nothing and spin your wheels and waste your time. That's not good either. But assuming that you're on it and you've got your checklists and you're ready to go, and assuming that you're actually engaged, then you can kind of start clicking off what you need to do and use that time. Again, for me, 18 months, 2 years is awesome. 2 years is great. You got plenty of time. If you know you're going to have a long engagement, plan it, enjoy it, and make it a process that's fun. If you're dreading it, something's wrong. It's supposed to be a fun thing. If it turns into tears and fights and ugliness, not that you're not going to have disagreements or have to compromise, but if it turns into something ugly, you're not enjoying yourself, you're not doing it right, and what are you bothering for? So, look at the clock, look at the calendar, look at your watch, make sure you know what you're doing, and start early. In a perfect world, at least 18 months or a year, and you'd be surprised how certain venues and places are booked out. And again, this is particular to each couple because it depends on what you want to do. But time. Second thing that pops into my mind that I absolutely can't stand is outdoor events. Now, I can hear you yelling at me. I'm not saying never have an outdoor event. I'm not saying don't have an outdoor component. I am saying they cause stress. You cannot control the weather. Let me say that again. You cannot control the weather. It's never going to happen. You are not God. It's not feasible. Anything can happen. I put together a beautifully planned wedding on a Friday night in October, Halloween weekend, about 10 years ago. Went off without a hitch. I had a same venue next night, different couple. It snowed overnight, totally unprecedented in southeastern PA in October. Snowed like 3 feet. Venue was trashed, couldn't have the thing. It was a disaster. Half the guests couldn't get there. Total freak storm. Outdoor venue. Now, I'm not saying they wouldn't have transportation troubles in the indoor venue to get there, but at least it wouldn't have been. I was like shoveling paths and putting up heaters and trying to keep things from freezing in October, which is really, again, total freak. But we woke up and I was like, what happened here? Reminds me of Father of the Bride with Steve Martin, but it happens. So if you're getting married on the top of the Swiss Alps and you get an avalanche, yeah, you can't account for that. If you think you're going to be on some beach or at a destination wedding or at a special venue location, I don't care if it's a barn or a beach or a mountain, and you might not get high winds, snow, extreme heat or cold, or just the background of it all. You can get that horrible feedback on your microphones. You could get, obviously guests could get hurt. People could have heat stroke. People could pass out. You might have people fall. You might have a sloppy, climb or walk to wherever. They could roll an ankle. You have to also think about your guests. Do you have older people? Do you have disabled people? Do you have little kids? And everybody's, dressed up and trying to look their best. You're not walking in heels on sand very easily. I don't care who you are. You're just not. And despite that it looks pretty, a lot of times we give up for the aesthetic and we don't think about the practical. Do you want to have a good time? Then maybe not think about outdoor stuff. If you have a little outdoor patio or something that can be utilized, or an area that's a possibility, an extra, a little accessory that you could throw in, great. That's fine. Use it as an accent. But even your pictures, you count on outdoor pictures and it rains, what are you going to do? Nothing. You're stuck. You can't do that. There went hair, nails, makeup, and all the clothing. What's the point? So really, really, really think, please, about outdoor events. I implore you. I can't even tell you how many have been ruined, wrecked, canceled. They're miserable. No one's happy. And that's all that people remember. And if you're worried about what other people think, let me tell you, that's the first thing people are talking. Oh, I didn't have a nice chair. It wasn't outside. It's the first thing they're going to complain about is outside. I don't care what you think that they might think. I'm telling you what they really do think. I hear it all the time. And it's one of those things where you get engrossed in what you want, and you should have what you want, and you deserve what you want. But what you want needs to be practical, accommodating for everyone to have a good time and enjoy and express it the way you wanted to and enjoy with you, not, against you. Think about that, please. Outdoors, ooh, bad, scary. All you do is watch the weather and have constant stress right up until the actual day of. Number 3, not double checking or putting things in writing. That's just stupid. Don't do it. So many people, and I'm all about a handshake agreement. I'm very loyal. I'm very old school. I've been in business over 30 years. But, you got to make sure you talk to that person and you have a link to that person. If they're ghosting you or you're not getting an answer or you didn't get a timely result once you've made some agreements and some deals, just no, bad idea. I think that you need to actually see everything you're going to do either mapped out in writing or that you're both on the same page. And that could be with anything. That could be with sound. That could be with photography. Look at that person's style. Look at how they shoot. Look at videos that have been edited. Look at bakery pastries and cakes that have been made. Look at tuck styles. Look at gown styles. This could be anything. This could be tailoring. Any specialty skill that you're employing, flowers, whatever, it has to be what you want. And don't just guess. Now, if you really don't care, and I've had a lot of people say to me, I'm not into that. I don't care. We just need it because we need it. Well, that's fine. And if you're going to let the vendor choose, still take a look at what they're choosing for you. Still ask, like, hey, what color are you thinking? Or, hey, what style? Is that cool? Because that could dictate price as well. And, delivery and options and time. And if they're given free reign, carte blanche is going to, charge more perhaps as well. So be smart and look at what your options are. And if you don't really have a particular thing, just, I want very inexpensive this, or I don't really care too much about that, but could you tell me an idea of what you're thinking? And they will work with you if they're worth their salt and if they're loyal. And if they're not, don't work with those people. If you're not getting, calls back or emails back or texts back, life gets in the way. I would give everyone the courtesy of at least 24 hours. Okay, and possibly 48, if something goes wrong. It's an ongoing thing. Weddings are a big deal, so don't get impatient either. I realize that it's exciting and you want to know, but sometimes you have to wait a little bit of time to get an answer, and that person should tell you that. Hey, I called so-and-so, I'll know in a week, here's the information, or this is what I have, I can call about this, we could rent that, whatever. But make sure that you have eyes on whatever it is that you want to do, you double check it, it's printed, it's agreed upon, because you have no legal recourse otherwise. And, they could disaffirm a contract, especially if it's just a handshake and a contract didn't exist. Then you get into a nasty he said, she said, and depending on the amount of whatever you spent, might not even be worth a court's time to bother, and you're going to end up spending money to try and get less money back. It's not even worth it. So don't put yourself in a bad position. If you do, try and work it out amicably, preferably before than after. Hey, look, I wanted this. You said that. How about you take off a couple hundred for here or there? And sometimes you can come to an agreement that way. Go into the situation calm, open-minded, and try to work through it. If it ends up bad, things can sometimes go sideways, and sometimes it's not the vendor's fault. If the electric blew out in the middle of the night and they had a faulty wiring system, it's not the DJ's fault that you have no sound. It's the venue's fault that they had no electric and they had a poor system. If the chef is there to cook, but the kitchen goes dark, that's not the chef's fault. It's the venue's fault. So, you have to look at where the ultimate source becomes a problem. So, just double check, triple check, double check. Number 4, overpaying. This is huge. People overpay constantly. Seek alternatives. Look for options. And I'm not saying it has to be go to the dollar store, although you'd be surprised what you can find with different things that you would never know, especially if you're playing a game or, incorporating something just silly or extra in the bathrooms or the hotel bags or whatever. I'm not knocking any venue or place, but, don't feel that you have to have the super, the best, the crystal, the this, the that. It's because sometimes it is put to you in a way that you need this or it has to be that way. Let me let you in on a secret. The same chicken that you're eating at a graduation party is the same chicken that you're eating at a wedding. But somehow the chicken at a wedding seems to be 3 or 4 times the price of the chicken at a graduation party. Well, it's not like Frank Perdue came in and blessed it, okay? It's still chicken, and it's not going anywhere. So whether it's, like a vegan meal, that should not cost you more. If anything, there's no meat in it. Hello. A vegetarian meal, that should not cost you more. It's fresh produce. Meats and seafoods are what cost you more. And even still, again, if it was a different venue, different situation, it would not be costing you more. If you picked that up and brought it home, it's still chicken. So, you need to talk to people that are honest and that are willing to charge a fair price. The minute you start saying the word country club, that's it. You're paying for that ambiance, you're paying for the staff, and that chicken is what's paying for it. So once they get you on all the little add-ons and extras and this and that, I'm sorry, we only have the amplification system for an extra $500. Guess what? You don't need it. Talk to your DJ. Because I have made packages for people where I'm like, yeah, no problem. You want to put up a lot of times people do like a slideshow or how they met or when they were kids or how they grew up or whatever. Yeah, guess what? I own one of the projectors and I don't need your screen. I have my own. For another $50, that person might give you something that they're trying to charge you $300 for at the venue. And believe me, if they can, they will. Ice sculptures. I have a buddy that does an ice sculpture. He's one of the most premier ice sculptors in Southeast PA. Fantastic guy. I would work with him every time, a million times over. Well, that's great, but the hotel or whoever is going to give you some stupid standard swan and try and charge you like $600 to $1,000. Well, guess what? My guy's better, and he's more specific, and it's less money. So, and he's loyal and honest, and he's going to be there on time. So check with your people. So many times people go, oh, I didn't know you did that. That is like a pierce to my heart. Oh, I didn't know you did that. Well, guess what? You didn't ask, and I'm not a mind reader. That's why I always throw out a million questions to whomever I'm speaking with about whatever it is. I don't care if it's a 5th birthday party, a bachelorette, a wedding, a prom, a dance, a 50th birthday party. I always say to people, okay, well, what are we doing? Would you have a theme? Are there colors? Do you want any kind of specialty song? Is something else going on that night? Is it somebody else's birthday? Are you acknowledging another thing? Do you need, hardware? Do you need, like, tables and tents and chairs and flatware? Do you want to do real plates and linens, or are you going to use throwaways? Do you need, a photo booth and an ice sculpture and chocolate fountains and things like that? I own most of that stuff or have access to it, and I would gladly make a package. I'm coming in there anyway. So, you want as few vendors as possible. With that said, if there's a super specialty thing, then yes, you go get what you want. But, price it out. Figure out what it is. It's not like Comcast where it's the only game in town and you pretty much have to get cable from one person. There's always options. Do not overpay or just blindly take the first thing that they show you. It's your event. And if you feel oogie, listen to your gut, because punk people into, well, this is what everybody else does. That's nice. I'm not everybody else. You don't have to be belligerent. Be kind, listen. But if you're just not jiving with that person and you don't feel comfortable with whomever that is, and maybe you really like the venue, request another person or go to another place. If you don't feel right in your gut, especially about nerves or money or the place, or there's something just not right, leave. Walk away. I guarantee you there's another place that's nicer that you like better. And when you see it, you'll know. You'll know. Trust me on that. You'll just know. Number 5, not enjoying your own day. This is so common. So many people say to me, well, my wedding came and went. I blinked and it was over. I barely said hello to anybody. I felt like I was never able to have a drink, dance. I barely ate. What happened? Yeah, unfortunately, when you're the host, a lot of times those moments get away from you. Hardcore, especially weddings. People often remember walking in. They might have a quick clarity moment for 2 minutes when they're going into like the bridal suite to wait to be announced. They might grab an hors d'oeuvre, take a sip of something, and the next thing you know, they're like cutting the cake and speeches and see you bye-bye. So I would say not only treasure it, relish it. If you're not in it, present in the moment and with it, there's no point. What did you spend all that money for? With that said, alcohol consumption comes to mind. Have a good time if that's in your purview, but don't get silly and sloppy. You don't want to be at your own wedding and out of control. And bridal party, that goes for you too, because you're usually the biggest offenders of this when it comes to being somebody that's going to maybe have a little peer pressure involved. So I'm not saying don't have a good time or do whatever it is that you do, but have that time in moderation within reason so that you're aware and know what's going on. I mean, so many times you're worried about what didn't happen, or did that guy show up? Did you tip so-and-so? Did this go on? Stop it. You're busy being in business instead of handling the wedding itself and enjoying the wedding, being part of the wedding. It's your day, and then it's just like gone from you. So that's why you want to have a checklist, have that number one person. If it wants to be your best man or you want it to be one of the ushers, that's great. Ladies can have their maid of honor or perhaps one of the bridesmaids or even just an extra person there for the day. Invite them and be like, look, you're on tips. You're on anything that goes wrong, let me know. And oftentimes we try to troubleshoot without involving the bride and groom because they got enough on their plate so that you can actually enjoy your wedding. I would say that when we sort of take over and have everything in place and it's as best as we can get it, barring tragedies, that's when you have the most awareness and fun at your own wedding. And you should. You spend all that money, you spend all that time, and you deserve to reap the spoils of what you did that are so tediously planned and put together over all that time. And that should be a good day and something you actually remember and don't have to go look back on a video to find out later. Number 6, loose ends. Oh boy, so many loose ends. These are the people, sometimes it's a situation, but these are the people that cause some trouble. They don't necessarily know they're causing trouble, so they're the worst kind. And they have planned on causing trouble from the beginning of you talking about getting married. This could be the drunk uncle. This could be the person that thinks they can sing and wants to turn it into a karaoke night. This could be the guy that walks up and says, I want to hear the chicken dance. I know these are all silly examples. Let me tell you, they're real. They're very, very real. You get somebody that's not cared for properly. And what I mean by that can range from a little kid that's having a temper tantrum that probably should have never been there in the first place, or there was no caregiver assigned to that person, to, the other side of the fence where you might have like an elderly person that actually needs care or is in a wheelchair, has motility difficulties, and there's nobody assigned to help them out. Or it could be somebody that's just like, oh, I'm going to do this at their wedding and I went this and blah, blah, blah. Even if it's somebody else's anniversary, someone else's birthday, someone else's whatever, that does not give that person the right to infringe on your day. Now, if you so choose to do that, you chose to do it as a couple. And I always say 2 people have to be happy. And that's it. And if you're not together on that and fine with it, that's not a compromise to me. And it shouldn't be for you either. And if there's one thing I could tell you that you really got to, be tough about, that's it. Because it's your day and, you're doing it. People get guilted very easily well, it's her such and such, or, oh, well, he likes to do that. No, don't let the loose ends take over. If you don't want that song, it's not getting played. Here's a list of what I don't want to hear. Very common. So many people, I tell them, plan out what you want. Again, it's your day. Everybody's got their favorite list of music and movies and books and everything. Why would you let that go to chance? Yes, there's that quote-unquote typical wedding music that we play, but it doesn't have to be. I've done specific venues and things that are right down to a special theme, or I've done Braveheart weddings, I've done Matrix weddings, I've done Star Wars weddings. Let me tell you, they're interesting, and they dress the part in the whole 9 yards, but don't let music go to chance. I had a whole Metallica Thrasher wedding that cracked me up a few years ago. I would have never played most of what that was for their playlist, but they had a great time, and they enjoyed every bit of it because they planned it, and it was what they wanted. And that was their audience. They knew their friends. Yeah, a couple people were but for the most part, everybody knew this is what they're getting into. This is what the night's going to be like. This is what the couple wanted. So you shut up and you do what the couple wants because it's for the couple. You don't get to be jealous, and you don't get to be in the way and selfish when it's somebody else's day. So I always tell people, good rule of thumb, the average song is 4 minutes, and the average hour, last I checked, is 60. So you get about 15 songs an hour. You're going to hear in a standard 5-hour venue, standard 5-hour event, about 4 hours. I would plan for 5, but between speeches and if you're doing all the traditional stuff and the entrance and invocation and whatnot, you're going to lose about an hour. But I always say plan for about 65 to 70 songs and make those the 65 to 70 songs that you like and you want. And if you want people to have slow dance time, pick it out. If you don't. If you want them on the dance floor, fine. If you want background music, fine. Generally, I always suggest, to kind of never introduce the dancing part because then you don't get them back. Once they're out, they're loose, and that's it. So in the beginning, I always tell people, keep it quiet until you're announced. Have your big moment. Everybody claps. Go into your dances, if you will, and you can certainly move this around any way you want, but have your specialty dances, do your invocation, start your meal, and it's kind of background music, and then when you're opening the dance floor, you're opening the dance floor, and that usually cues everybody to go out. But you could do that any which way to your liking, but make it what you want to hear, not Uncle Crazy who's drunk and came over and wants to sing karaoke and grab the mic. First of all, it puts a vendor in a bad spot. Secondly, do you really want to go get the bride and groom to come solve a problem that you don't want to solve and say, oh, this guy's out of control? It just leads to icky. So, make sure that you're taking care of those loose ends, and you probably know ahead of time or have a good idea who's going to surface. Try and have a conversation with those people politely beforehand and just say, listen, we're not doing this. That's not going to happen. We appreciate your enthusiasm. No. And if you really feel obligated to do something, let them do something at the rehearsal dinner or at the engagement party or just at a random party, prior to, because it's not the place for that. Number 7, not practicing speaking. This makes me crazy. I am a key-drilled member of the NFL. No, not the National Football League, as you were thinking, because I probably would have been a really good player the more I think about it. But no, National Forensic League. It's a Catholic school thing. I grew up with it. You just learn speech and debate. It's what we do. And maybe that's why I'm always behind a microphone. But, it just is crazy to me that you can't communicate what you need to communicate to people. I'm not saying you have to speak to a crowd. I understand a lot of people don't like that. That's not something that's ever fazed me. For God's sake, I teach and I'm behind a microphone all the time. Very many people are terrified of talking to a crowd. And I understand that. And on nights like these, a lot of people kind of have to overcome that fear, or they're not happy about it because you have your typical speeches and whatnot. But just being able to communicate one-on-one with what you need or want from the venue to one person, you definitely need to be able to do that. So if somebody else is still making your doctor's appointments for you, you need to, put your big girl panties on and let's go and figure this out, because a lot of times, you need to say, no, I'm going to put my foot down. I want this at this time on this day. Can you do it or not? Don't be wishy-washy. Don't be indecisive. Be able to have a one-on-one communique with whomever you need to in order to get whatever you need. Now, with that said, broadly expanding, okay, let's talk about those speeches and things. If you're going to do vows, are you in church and repeating vows that were already from the Bible? In which case, you're just parroting, and that's no problem. yes, you're going to have to speak in front of people, keeping in mind that microphones were not meant to be hanging out at belly buttons. People often hold a mic and they let it drop. Pay attention. Your face needs to be near the microphone. If you're doing a lavalier mic where it's on the tucks, and usually you would hold it for a bride, they don't usually clip them, or if there's a stand-up microphone there, typically you're facing one another, so the bride's voice would be picked up by the lavalier mic on the groom. Usually not an issue. Test that beforehand, not only in rehearsal, but before people get into the venue, because it can definitely be a game changer. Feedback, awful. People can't hear it. What? Huh? And people are obnoxious, unfortunately. So you're going to hear that. Do you really need heckling at your wedding? The other thing, too, is if you do have a stutter, a speech impediment, and you're aware of it and it bothers you, you might want to seriously think about taking a minute and invoking the help of a speech therapist or getting something written to your benefit. Or maybe do something different. I had a man once that had a serious stutter, and he didn't want, he was embarrassed, and he's like, I've had it my whole life. When I'm talking to somebody and I'm comfortable, it doesn't matter, but then sometimes it comes out. He sang. When he sang, he never had the problem. He sang his vows to his wife. No one was the wiser. No one knew he had a speech impediment. He didn't talk the rest of the night, so other than her, he was fine with her, and problem solved. So there's creative ways around things. Go watch The King's Speech if you never, don't know what I'm talking about. It's kind of an interesting way around that. But, think about things like that. Think about the best man or the maid of honor. Anymore, there's more than one speech. Often there's a welcome. So in typical tradition, her dad, bride's dad, would generally give a welcome at the wedding. Some people do this, some people don't. Your choice. But if that man is not articulate, if he's not into speaking to crowds, don't make that person do that. If mom's better at it, let mom do it. If they don't want to do it, then don't do it. But don't decide that the night of. All these things should be planned out well in advance. I'm not saying it's the first thing you got to worry about, but it's one. I can't tell you how many maid of honor or matron of honor speeches have been disastrous because we're talking about some crazy night in Cabo that somebody had that's very specific to the bride or the bridal party, but the rest of the people are left out. That's not a good speech. That's not something you want to say. You have to watch what you're saying. You're in a formal setting. You're in formal wear, therefore you should be speaking correctly as well. I mean, you don't want a sloppy situation or an ugly time referenced. So many times, groomsmen get nervous. The best man's like, oh my God, I wrote out cards. So here's where I'm at. If you can't do it from the cuff, you shouldn't do it at all. I have done it with earpieces where people are that nervous that I've fed them their lines. I think it's obvious, but the biggest culprit is not holding the glass. People walk up there and it's bad luck to toast without a glass. So they don't even have their champagne glass in hand or sparkling apple juice, whatever you're going to do. And they walk up there because they're holding cards or looking at, a speech. Or worse yet, I'm so sorry, it's so tacky. People look on their phone. They type something up and they pull up their phone. You should not be holding a cellular device or tablet in formal wear in front of anyone. And if you think, it's no big deal or my memory's not that good, then maybe you shouldn't be speaking for that person. Because I would be appalled and I would freak on whoever that person was. And yeah, that is the little moment that's duly noted. Because that's the differentiation between knowing what you're going to say and have it locked down. I'm not saying, you need to sit and memorize. Talk from your experiences and speak from the heart, and you won't go wrong. Now, if you're just going to be brief and say a few things, and it's index card worthy, I'm not a big fan of that, but I can understand it. Or maybe at a podium situation, have it there so you don't have to touch them, and you can still hold the glass. But think about all of those speeches. You have a person giving an invocation, most likely some sort of prayer prior to dinner, whether you invited them or it's a pastor or it's a minister or a priest or whatever, and they're going to be formal, and that person is generally of the cloth, so they're going to be speaking correctly and either from a Bible or from the cuff, if you will, but it's prepared. And you're going to have an officiant who's prepared, and you're going to have a couple who I hope is prepared doing their vows or at least reciting them. And then you have two people that you picked that are representing you. Well, your friends say a lot about you, so they should be prepared. So make sure everybody that's going to talk is prepared. That goes for your readers. If you're going to have a formal mass or any kind of church situation, or anybody speaks to you, witnesses, anyone who's announcing you, you should be prepared. So speak, practice often, and if you have any issue, head it off at the pass ahead of time. Talk about it and discuss before you get into that situation. Number 8, planning with others' opinions in mind and TV influencers. Ooh, and ooh. You are getting married, so it's 2 people that have to care. 2 people's opinions matter. That's it. Not Aunt so-and-so, not the uncle yada yada, not the grandmother. No. There's always somebody that's going to tell you how to do it better or what they did, or, you're comparing to this. Please do not look at like the Kardashians. Okay, like get real. You're not thinking about, oh, well, this tiara or that. No. Wipe the slate clean and think what you want. Think for yourself. I get that you're going to get ideas and inspirations from things, and that's why people run out and buy bridal magazines and look at stuff, and that's certainly fine. But you need to come up with what you want. Do not simply get spoon-fed what Earth said, or be wishy-washy and take what your family said. Very many people get punked around by their family. And I hate to say it, but there's that old adage, he who has the gold makes the rules. That is tough because if, back in the day, if mom and dad of the bride were paying for the wedding, yes, it was typically her decision and whatnot, but there were a lot of things that were happening because mom and dad wanted those people there, or mom and dad said so. These days, anything goes, and it certainly could be a myriad of possibilities. But what I have found is that people are getting married much later. Generally, they're older, and typically they're adults and they're working. So most of your brides and grooms are paying for things themselves. That being the case, you have the gold and are making the rules. Now, I'm not saying you're not getting help, and I'm not saying somebody's not gifting you something. And that is up to you how much leverage you want to give that person. But I say this to the gift givers. If you are giving someone a gift, you have no choice by which they use that gift. If that is the case, then that's a condition, not a gift, and you're not giving a gift. If you hand somebody $5,000 and say, here, it's for your wedding, vaya con Dios, that's great. They get to do whatever they want with that $5,000. They want to put it toward a house? Fantastic. They want to put it towards their honeymoon? Great. They want to put it towards a wedding? Great. You don't get a say. If you hand somebody $5,000, well, you can use this for blah. No, that's your condition. Don't give it to them. Then you don't mean it. So I say that on both sides. Now, if somebody offers to pay for the whole thing and you're okay with some concessions because of it, that's a pre-work deal and that's up to you. But I still say to the gift giver, you should want to support whatever they want to do within reason. And to those getting married, you should also be reasonable and be doing something, I'll say standard, normal, etc. If there's something like bizarre that you want to come skydive into your venue in tux and gown, well, that's going to take some extra planning, and that might be a whole lot of money. But if you're going to have a traditional standard wedding or destination wedding or whatever, make sure that you're doing something for you that you both like, and you're shutting out those other people. Oh, well, so-and-so has to sing this, or I want to say that, or you need to wear this color, or you're, especially they like to play on guilt. So if somebody had passed before, oh, well, they would have liked this, so you should wear that, or that person should have that. I'm not saying don't represent people and don't try and be all-encompassing, but it's your day. It's for you. It's not about them. It's not about what they wanted and what they remembered or what they're trying to compare. So don't compare. It's for you. Create. Don't compare. Start your own thing. Write your own story. Number 9, large gaps between the ceremony and the reception. This is almost right up there for me with weather. If you get married at 2 o'clock in the afternoon and, let's just say Catholic Mass is an hour, I'm functioning under what I deal with mostly. Catholic Mass is an hour, you do an old school traditional receiving line. You're looking at like 3:30. If you need time to go do your pictures, you want to take some at the church and then take some somewhere else, and you're going to have a 5 o'clock cocktail time, and that travel time from your ceremony, from your church to your venue is 15 or 20 minutes, you have a problem, my friend, because not everybody is in town. Not everybody lives close by. So if I'm going to zip on over to the local church and zip on over to the local country club and I live closely, I can go home. I can go home, I can get changed, I could be a bum. If I live in, Zimbabwe and I came over for the wedding, I can't go anywhere. And chances are my hotel is not near. And even if I'm at the hotel that the wedding is going to be at, you don't know, are you checking in? Because there's always that nightmare of time. When you check into a hotel, generally it's 3 or 4 p.m. Well, most of your cocktail times are 4 or 5, somewhere in that neighborhood. And anymore, it's been the trend to have an hour and a half or 2-hour cocktail time. And if that's the case, you might not even get in your room and your bags are still downstairs and you're going to come after, unless you checked in the day before, which of course is a bigger expense. So there's that hotel crisis to think about, because generally speaking, when the sweet spot of the hotel, and they don't like to let people in early no matter what, when they want you to check in for real, you're either at the venue watching the wedding or you're about to walk into the reception. So it's just bad timing all around. With the Gap, I would say have a holding tank. And yes, it's probably going to cost you extra money. Rather than go to a third place, have usually, and again, if you're getting married at a country club, if you're getting married at a big facility or any kind of hotel, generally speaking, there's a smaller room that you can get. I don't care if it's a conference room and they just set up some pastries and some coffee and some, light juices or whatever it may be. You could do a little thing where people are getting a snack or just refreshing for a minute and sitting down. It doesn't have to be a big meal. It doesn't have to be a meal at all. Just, have a juice and some water or some coffee and a time to take a break. Even if it's an hour or two from A to B. It gives them a place to go. It gets them where they have to get. And then that way they're on site. Now, if they're staying in a hotel, that's a bonus for them. But you definitely want to have a space for them to be present at so they don't have to go hither, thither, and yon to find where they're going to go. Or, if they get lost or whatever can happen. So have a holding tank. I've always said that. I think it's just the easiest way to go. Now, again, I would have it on behalf of both sides. If you had to pick a side, you could argue who has the most travelers. I've seen people do that. So if the bride has more people far away, she would pick that up. If the groom side has more people far away, he would pick that up. But obviously you would hope that you're starting a unity, so you would do it together. But have an extra space. Could be as simple as the coffee shop on site, or maybe like a small conference room. I wouldn't go as small as a hotel room, but there's usually space there, or a lounge or something that you can have. Oh, bridal party, Smith and Wesson, come over here and let's do waiting time that you can have a refreshment and use the lavatory, etc., while you're waiting for the actual venue time to start for the reception or for cocktail time. Last but not least, number 10, transportation plans and nightmares. Okay. I have probably been approached about 30 times, top of my head, over my career where people have not thought through transportation. And I've literally been approached to that minute off the cuff be paid for getting somebody home or getting the bride and groom back to where they had to go or going to pick up a car because nobody thought about it. Now I ask you, how can you plan an event a whole year in advance and not think about where your car is going to be? And if you got to think about where your car is going to be, are you capable of driving? Because you probably shouldn't do that. Last I checked, drunk driving is bad. So you got a lot of factors here. You got timing, you got planning, you got potential booze involved, you've got hotel timing involved, and it's just makings of a nightmare. You don't want a nightmare. You want a happy dream. So what happens? I'll bring my car there ahead of time. Well, when are you bringing your car there? Because if you're getting married at a hotel or at a venue, the bride and groom aren't going to have time to drive over. If they do, it's like a day before or a couple days before. Are you at a destination wedding? Do you even have transportation? Did you fly somewhere? More importantly, your guests at the end of the night. Are your guests going to, part A, part B? Did they bring a car? Did they rent a car? Are they from out of town? Are they local? If they are they capable of driving? Who's bringing home mom and dad? Who's bringing home grandma? Who's bringing home the little kids? I would say very often now I get asked to have van transportation. And sometimes the venues will offer it. And again, this is one of those shop around situations. Sometimes it's part of your package. Sometimes they'll offer it to you for an upcharge. check your upcharge versus other people. If you have your limo company, and again, we've done this, I can't tell you how many times we've provided extra help, bartenders, ushers, etc., just to be in the mix. Have the things taken care of that you can control so that you don't have a bad night. You don't want people driving drunk. You don't want people scrambling for a car. You don't want to have people not knowing where their vehicle is or where it's got to go or is it safe. And what if they have stuff in it? What if they're not staying over? So at the end of the night, if you have transport and it's not included in the hotel and you're going somewhere else, have that booked ahead of time and get that transport back and forth and do it as many times as you need it. Yes, of course, you're going to have to pay for it, but don't rush people either. I always say 15-minute increments. Every 15 minutes for the last hour, people go out, and then it runs like Disney. It runs an hour after the ferry goes home. You run another 15 minutes after. So you basically have anywhere from 6 to 8 transports back to whatever hotel or perhaps back to the venue for people to get their cars if they consolidated and they carpooled, or back to wherever they have to go. And if you need to hire private transportation for older folks or little kids or whatever, do so. I would not just rely on an Uber. Not that people can't. I get it. It's generally a reputable company, but do you want to gamble that? So, especially as a little kid, have the help that you need. If you need a babysitter to be there, you pay for them to get dressed up and go to that wedding so mom and dad can have a good time and not have to wrangle that child. Because there's nothing worse than a little kid on the dance floor in the middle throwing a tantrum when you're supposed to have, photographers and videographers getting set up. If you have somebody that drinks a little bit too much, yeah, you can have that conversation ahead of the time, but be prepared. Have that person, have that friend or bring a wrangler with you that's going to be able to, come on, let's go back. Let's go back to the table. Let's go back to the room. Let's go. If you need transportation for bride and groom, grandparents, mom and dad, bridal party, either have the limo come back at the end of the night. You'd be amazed how many times they might make you a limo package for 3 hours for bridal. But if you do, come back later, it might not be that much more money. They might send a different vehicle. What do you care? Just get people home safely. Vans, transportation, 15 passenger vans are a way to go. 30 people moved back and forth, in 3 or 4 moves that are not that far. Especially if you do have a far distance, you might think about more vans so you could do it in one foul swoop and don't leave anybody behind. But in that case, you need a checklist to make sure all bodies are on board. But if it's a back and forth close by thing, you could always go back, make a sweep, and ask for anybody that came through. But definitely think about that, because those are things that can hold you up and make a nightmare scenario. And it's at the end of the night. And that's not when you want it to happen. These are just some of the things that popped in my head as the most annoying that I have seen in a while that can ruin your day. And the last thing you want ruined is your big day. Most people say, these key moments in your life. Oh, when I got my license, or, my kid was born, or I got married, or I got my diploma. Like, yeah, these are big milestones. Do you really want to have any kind of dark cloud over those milestones? No, especially when you're supposed to share your life with this person that you found that you claim is your soulmate. And you're like, oh, here, let's have some tragedy. You don't want to start off like that. So plan often, plan early, plan accordingly, and, ask. Do not be afraid to ask. Be articulate, be strong, and be open-minded, and be loyal, be honest, and be quiet sometimes and listen, so that you can get all the information and, be communicative. That's my big advice. Those 10 things, like I said, they're kind of the 10 that bother me the most. There could be 1,000, but they got me so annoyed that I created the ultimate guide to a stress-less wedding. Because people keep asking me these questions, and I thought, share with the world, and I hope that it'll do you some good. There's a couple of checklists in there for, just the whole enchilada and how to go from soup to nuts, A to Z, with a bridal plan so that your nuptials go well. We have a gratuity guide in there for who to tip, what to, when, etc. Like what would be good, timing wise, and what you're doing with. Gratuity, because these days I feel like tips are just running rampant, and what's fair. And then we also have like a timeline that you can kind of look at, like, oh, I'm a little late on this, oh, I'm early on this, or of what just generally has to happen from about 18 months out to close to the final week. So if you want to check out the ultimate guide to a stressless wedding, there'll be a link in the description. Of course, we appreciate it. If you want to check that out, that'd be great. And if you are getting married, please think about that, because I guarantee you it will be a helpful purchase to keep you in safe, spiritual, happy mode of not losing it, not being stressed, and keeping dollars in your pocket, because a lot of tips and tricks in there that I've used over the years to be able to get solid, loyal vendors, and they're out there. They're out there. I'm one of them, and I've worked with so many people so many times that have come back to me for their wedding, their kids' wedding, even their grandparents' wedding, grandchildren's wedding. I've had kids that I've taught that have come back to me for their wedding because, they know that I'm going to take care of them. So, my limo driver, Harry, always says, I take care of people who take care of me. And that's how you need to be thought of and think of these people. So when you meet them, if it clicks right away and it feels good, use them. If it doesn't, don't. Move on. There's a million people out there. And make sure it's you and your partner's decision, because they're the only two people that matter when it comes down to it in the end. Don't listen to other people's peer pressure. I hope this was informative for you. If you like what you heard today, then check out eclecticcollectionpodcast.com or listen on your preferred platform. I'm Terry Tenaglia. Thanks for listening.